everyone. Welcome to the info session for the Columbia Climate School Summer 2023 Pre-College Programs. My name is Laurel Zaima-Sheehy, and I'm the Program Manager of the K-12 and Continuing Education programs at the Columbia Climate School. And I'm so happy that you're joining us to learn more about these programs that we have for high school students that's being offered by the Columbia Climate School with our partnership with Putney Student Travel. So the format of today's info session is going to be, we're going to start with a brief introduction to the organizations behind this effort, which is the Climate School and Putney Student Travel. And then more specifically, we're going to really talk about the programs that we have this summer, including the Columbia Climate School and the Green Mountains program and the Columbia Climate Corps program. Logistically, we have the Q&A function on this Zoom webinar that allows you to ask questions throughout the presentation. So feel free to do so at any time. We have Julian here from Putney Student Travel that will be monitoring the Q&A, but we will also have time to answer any of the questions live at the end of the session. And the questions that you ask are not just beneficial for you, but also for everyone who's joining us today. So feel free to ask questions, as many and throughout the presentation. It would be helpful for everyone. So I would like to start with just a brief introduction to the people that are joining us today on this info session. So we have Evan Overton from Putney Student Travel, who has been directly assisting the Columbia Climate School in our pre-college summer program efforts. We have Julian Hartman-Russell, who is going to be joining us also from Putney Student Travel. As I mentioned, he'll be monitoring the Q&A. And on the Columbia side, we have Sandra Goldmark, Martin Dietrich Brauch, and Antonia Samur, who are going to share about themselves, the role they're playing in either the Green Mountains or the Columbia Climate Corps program, and what to expect if you were to join them on any of these efforts. So to get us started, just wanted to share a little bit about the Columbia Climate School's mission, which is to develop and inspire knowledge-based solutions and educate future leaders for just and prosperous societies on a healthy planet. We're really excited because this is the first new school at Columbia in over 25 years. And its inception really came from Columbia's recognition that we needed a climate school to address climate change as one of society's greatest challenges and an intergenerational human rights concern. It also causes issue and it disproportionately impacts people that are already severely disadvantaged. And these challenges are really difficult and complex, which it requires an innovative, coordinated, and transdisciplinary approach to addressing these challenges. So from that recognition, the Columbia Climate School was born, and it is intended to address these challenges as it has interdisciplinary research, partnerships, education, and innovative technologies within the school itself to focus on having a direct impact on the world. The Climate School is not new in its fabrication. It really builds upon 75 years of leading research in the earth sciences. And the leaders at the Climate School have been thinking across the university of how we might develop complex solutions to these challenges of climate change. So we have more than 700 scientists, faculty, researchers, public health experts, lawyers, and staff that are working from over 20 different institutes involved in the school. And they combine their scholarship and teaching so we can come to a different and unique approach to developing solutions. The Climate School is also committed to offering multidisciplinary educational opportunities for graduate, undergraduate, and pre-college students because we recognize that they are the next generation of change makers and they're essential stakeholders to address the climate crisis. Young people are really critical in mobilizing action because climate is this long-term challenge. We're experiencing the challenges now, but the next generations are going to be the most affected. So young people need to be a part of the solution in developing these new climate technologies, ways to combat climate injustices, and new adaptation approaches to climate impacts. And the way that they can do that is through different avenues to learn and be equipped with the knowledge and skills and tools to drive these solutions now, starting at, whether they be in high school or even, for the case for our programs, rising ninth graders. And it's not that we need everyone to be a climate scientist, but we really need a diversity of skills, passions, and careers, with climate science serving as this underpinning of the work. So our pre-college programs, they really demonstrate how we can bring earth processes, climate science, and sustainability into everything that you could pursue as a career. And it's critical for us to think across these different sectors to develop solutions, as climate is going to impact each of us, no matter what career we pursue. And so a core piece of our program, our pre-college programs, also involve developing young people into community leaders, because much of the work happens at a local level. So we need climate activists that are mobilized in communities to drive change. And we think these climate activists are extremely powerful when they are young people. So in partnership with Putney Student Travel, we're offering these unparalleled summer experiences for students to go in the field and on the ground with the Columbia Climate School experts and become immersed in climate content that high schoolers don't normally have access to. So now I'm gonna pass it over to Evan, who's going to share a little bit more about Putney Student Travel, their history, mission, and goals.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Evan, and I'm excited to be here today to speak a bit about Columbia Climate School summer programs. I work with Putney Student Travel and help to coordinate our programs with Columbia Climate School, and we're really excited about this coming summer. Putney Student Travel is a family-based organization based in Putney, Vermont, and we're now in our third generation. The director of Putney Student Travel, who you see in the middle of this photo, is Peter Shumlin, who was formerly the governor of Vermont from 2011 to 2017, and was a very important person in creating this partnership with the Columbia Climate School to offer high school students this unique opportunity. Our organization was started in 1951 by a husband and wife team of teachers, and the mission of the organization is to change students' lives through unique experiential learning experiences, both in small group travel formats and larger campus-based programs like the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains. Putney Student Travel has a worldwide network of professionals who are focused on education. Health and safety are our #1 priorities, and we do offer a 24-hour support line over the summer for any emergencies or needs from our families or leaders. We look to hire the very best summer leaders, and the people who work with our students over the summer are really dynamic young people who are there to facilitate the workshops and the learning that's going to go on with the Columbia faculty there in the Green Mountains and out in the field on the Columbia Climate Corps traveling programs. I'm going to come back a little bit later to talk about our application process and give a general overview of next steps that families can take to enroll students on any of these programs. But just wanted to remind you that we are available here in Putney to answer any questions about the programs or the application process. And we encourage you to give us a call or send us an email if you have any specific questions about the programs or any questions about the application process itself. I'm going to hand it on over now back to Laurel and come back a little bit later to discuss some more steps in the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. All right, so we are first going to talk about our Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains program, which is a campus-based program at Vermont State University's beautiful 165-acre campus. So students of the Green Mountains program will be joining a cohort of like-minded students from across the country and the world to learn from each other and to collaborate and gain an understanding of the multifaceted aspects of climate change, learn about individual roles in climate action, and engage in meaningful conversations about taking action in their own communities. And so you might be asking yourself, why Vermont? Well, Vermont is the perfect location to learn about climate solutions, as Vermont is a leader in the US for green energy, and they've rapidly increased renewable energy like wind and solar, and increased energy efficiency, all while building jobs and lowering electric rates. So Vermont is really showing the country how one state can move the needle in the right direction in addressing climate change while building a more sustainable economy for its people. Therefore, Vermont State University is the perfect classroom or laboratory to see how climate science, technology, and policy can be applied in real life. And Putney Student Travel is also extremely well connected in their home state of Vermont, and they're able to connect students of the Green Mountains program with a diverse network of sustainability practitioners to learn about the on-the-ground solutions being employed in this region. In addition, students will experience all that Vermont has to offer by exploring the local area and immersing themselves in the beauty of the Green Mountains. And this is our third year of offering this program. The dates for this summer are July 2nd through July 14th. It's a 13-day, 12-night program. The fee is $6,290, and this is an all-inclusive fee. So that covers accommodation, meals, program activities, field excursions, weekend trips, and transportation during the program. This program, as is all of our summer pre-college offerings, are really designed for high school students grades 9 through 12, and we also accept really motivated rising ninth grade students as well. So I'm going to share just a brief video here from the summer 2021 in the Green Mountains program, so you can hear directly from the past Green Mountains participants and the instructors.
Climate is a problem that affects all of us globally, locally.
Guys, sometimes you might look at something and be like, there's nothing there. Look hard.
At the Columbia Climate School, we are extremely passionate about education, and we are very interested in preparing our future generations to face the impacts and have a much better understanding of the science behind climate change so that they can take action.
It's one thing to be teaching in a classroom, but when you're teaching about climate, there's nothing that's better than being out in the field.
Climate change is so important to me, mostly because where I'm from and the culture there. To elaborate on because where I'm from, South Texas has wonderful and beautiful beaches and marine life and natural life, and climate change threatens that on so many levels.
The most interesting thing that I've learned is that when dealing with big issues like climate change, you have to think in terms of these systems, so not just focusing on one problem, but looking at how that one problem interacts with all the other problems.
So important for young people to get involved in the climate problem and finding climate solutions.
This program has motivated me to want to help my local environmental organizations and just offer knowledge that maybe people in my community don't have the access to.
These teenagers are curious, energetic, quite activated by this issue.
Some of the ideas that they've had have been something that we've learned a lot from and are really planning to incorporate into our work as well.
It's just a perfect opportunity for them to start their climate journeys and to go back to their own communities and take action.
All right, so I've had the opportunity to join the Green Mountains program from its inception, and my favorite part about the program is really the bi-directional learning that happens. Everyone in the program is coming from a diversity of backgrounds with different passions and skills, and all of this provides incredible opportunities for mentorship and learning across multiple relationships. So students are learning from mentors, mentors are learning from students, and students learn from each other. And as we heard, as we head towards the end of the program, it's really incredible to see the growth of knowledge and confidence that the students gain, particularly when they are presenting their climate action plans at the end of the program, which is a really important component of this experience. So this program places a strong emphasis on academics. In each summer, the program content, it varies based on the feedback that we've received from past participants. So the summer themes for 2023 include the science of climate change. During this, we are going to be talking about natural variability, the anthropogenic or human-caused climate change, climate projections and modeling, and climate information and decision-making. Then we're going to be talking about climate impacts and resilience, which encompasses global processes and local impacts, preparedness and risk, recovery and planning, and mitigation and adaptation. We have a dedicated theme of international climate policies and negotiations, talking about sustainable development goals in the Paris Agreement, decarbonization pathways and the energy transition, monitoring and measuring progress, the United Nations climate change conferences, and global governance and international law. Sustainability and the circular economy will be covered as well. So we're going to be talking about consumerism and the throwaway culture, building a value chain, new economic models of circular systems, and achieving sustainable business practices. And finally, we're going to be talking about climate action and advocacy and how students can make local community impacts and what it takes to build strategic communication and the role that youth play in climate action. In addition to the academic rigor that we ensure in all of our programs, we also make sure that the students get to have fun and they're given a variety of opportunities to do so. So there's purposeful activities and immersive experiences that students participate in throughout the program. And this includes speaker series, team building and networking activities, excursions and field-based lessons, small group workshops, and the final project, which is the climate action plan that I had mentioned, where students, they develop a solution to address one of the climate challenges that their community faces. And the students will be sharing their final projects to the Columbia Climate School experts, as well as their peers at the conclusion of the program to gain feedback and advice so they can implement this in their communities once they return home. So we have 6 Columbia Climate School experts that will be leading the lessons and activities for the Green Mountains program. The experts of the program are leaders in a variety of different sectors. So we have experts that, people that are experts in climate science, social science, sustainability, finance, and policy. And all of our experts are committed to equipping students with the tools they need to take action for the global climate impact. So some of our experts include Laurel DeSera. Laurel researches how mosquito-borne diseases are impacted by climate. She's really focusing on assessing and improving sub-seasonal to seasonal forecasts and how these models can be used by decision makers to improve the livelihoods of their constituents. So Laurel really focuses on the Science of Climate Change primer towards the beginning of the program. Josh DeVincenzo is joining us as well from the National Center for Disaster Preparedness at the Columbia Climate School. He focuses on developing learning experiences associated with FEMA training projects that navigate housing and economic recovery. So Josh is really going to be focusing on climate impacts as well as some sessions on climate communication. Miriam Nielsen is really interested in how severe hazards will change under warming and the vulnerability of people and ecosystems to these changes. So she uses large-scale climate data sets and model simulations to investigate regional climate and ecosystem dynamics related to precipitation and drought. So Miriam is going to be leading sessions on climate modeling and projections. However, Miriam also has a background in creating online educational videos about climate change and environmental advocacy. So if you're interested in a more videographer lens of communicating climate change, Miriam would definitely be an expert that you would want to chat with. And today we are joined by Martin. So I will let Martin introduce himself and the lessons he's going to be teaching in the Green Mountains program.
Thank you very much, Laurel. Hi, everyone. It's very nice to be here with you today. My name is Martin Dietrich Brauch. I'm an economist and an international lawyer by training, and I work as a lead researcher at the Columbia Center on Sustainable Investments, CCSI. CCSI is a joint applied research center between the Columbia Climate School and the Columbia Law School. And our mission at CCSI is to study and promote policies and practices that shape and govern investments to achieve sustainable development. My work personally at CCSI focuses on economic and legal research, training, advisory work, especially focused on mining, the mining sector, the energy transition, climate change policy, and international investment law and policy. I taught for the first time in the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains program last year, summer 2022, and I'm very excited to teach again this coming summer. The topics that I will be teaching in the program include an introduction to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 13 on climate action, also on the UN Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement. Another session on decarbonization pathways, looking at the pillars of decarbonization of the global energy system, discussing energy efficiency, electrification, increasing the presence of renewables in energy systems, hydrogen, biofuels, etc. I will also present a session on global governance and international law, focusing on international investment law, investor-state dispute settlement, and how these international law mechanisms negatively affect climate policy. And finally, one session on making, measuring, and monitoring progress, looking into what countries and companies have been doing and can do to make progress towards decarbonization, looking into command and control policies, carbon pricing schemes such as carbon taxes and emissions trading schemes that governments can adopt, subsidies, incentives, etc., but also looking at what companies can do by adopting zero carbon development models, establishing internal carbon pricing, adopting science-based targets to achieve climate goals, etc. So I'm very passionate about this program for various reasons. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to raise awareness among young people about the climate emergency, also about climate solutions, but also to listen to the ideas of young people to foster their innovative thinking and ideas on approaches and solutions to the climate emergency, fostering their leadership as young people, but also educating them and training them in all matters related to climate, whether they will work directly on climate issues in future, whatever the career path they may choose, climate change will affect them, and they can and will have to play a role to mitigate the climate emergency. So it's for those reasons that I think it's very important to educate them in various areas of knowledge relevant to climate change. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Martin. And we're so excited to have you back as well. It's going to be a great summer. All right. And we also have Sandra Goldmark, who has joined us today for the info session. So I'll also let Sandra introduce herself.
Thank you, Laurel. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Sandra Goldmark. I am originally a designer, a theatrical set designer, and I now am the Director of Sustainability at Barnard College, which is affiliated with Columbia, some of you may know, and I'm a Senior Assistant Dean at the Columbia Climate School. So having started my career as a designer, where you make and throw away a lot of stuff, I many years ago started getting very interested in the circular economy. And that is what the module that I'll be teaching at the Green Mountains course will be on. It'll be on circularity. What is the circular economy? How does it relate to climate change? For those of you who may not be familiar with it, the circular economy is very simply about how we make, use, and dispose of stuff, all the things we make. This is a big, important topic for climate discussions because, as the Ellen MacArthur Foundation says, nearly 50% of the emissions that cause climate change come from the production and use of everyday items, from cars to clothes to food and much more. So very simply, if we can figure out how to make, use, share, repair, and remanufacture all that stuff in a way that is circular, not linear, then we can have a big climate impact, a big biodiversity impact, and a big community impact. And so that's what we'll be doing with the students this summer. In my portion of the course, we'll be exploring what is the circular economy and how does it connect to questions of climate change and biodiversity. We'll be looking at real world circularity challenges and how the students can come up with ways to tackle them. And we'll explore how you make these changes, how we can transition from a linear to a circular system on multiple levels, the community level, all the way up to the global scale. So this very hands-on problem-solving oriented course will hopefully give the students some big picture understanding of the topic and how circularity relates to climate change, but also some very actionable things that they could potentially implement in their home, in their community when they go home or in their future studies. One of the things I love about circularity, really all climate issues, I think Martin mentioned this, is that these are topics that are not just for climate scientists. They're not just for people who are going to any particular career path. Circularity is something for designers to work on, for engineers, for policymakers, artists, community leaders. It's really, as a theater artist working at the climate school, I can tell you, I really believe in having a diversity of ways of thinking and of student interests in the room to make a course really rich and exciting. And in fact, it's the only way to tackle these challenges. So hopefully these will be concepts they can implement no matter what their field of study. And then lastly, on a personal note, I am the mother of a high schooler who is currently going through this, trying to figure out summer process. So if there's any parents out there on the call, they might be happy to know that I'm definitely in tune with this age group. I just taught a circular economy module last year at a local high school. And it was really wonderful to see what the students did there and how creative they were. So I can't wait to see the students in Vermont, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Sandra. And I will also be joining the Green Mountains program again this summer. So my background is actually, I got my bachelor's in marine science and biology and my master's in sustainability science, but I have lots of experience working with young people, particularly high school students, in developing different solutions and communication projects to really motivate their own communities, their friends, their families, their own networks to drive climate action. So we're going to be talking about some local climate impacts, because climate change looks different depending on where you live. And then we're going to dive into a roadmap on how you can build your own climate action plan that you can bring back to your communities. What are the different components that you need to think about? Who are the stakeholders that you need to engage? And so every student will be able to take away from the last couple of sessions with me a actual plan that they can gain feedback from all of us as Columbia Climate School experts, as well as their peers, to really fine tune this plan to make it a reality once you get to go home. So I'm also really excited to see everyone, the innovative ideas that the students come up with are always so impressive, and I know this summer will be no different. And I also wanted to transition now to our other offering this summer, which are the Columbia Climate Corps traveling programs. So the Columbia Climate Corps are small group climate and sustainability focused traveling programs that are designed for motivated high school students to intentionally travel to various locations across the US and abroad to experience a destination through the lens of climate change. So each Columbia Climate Corps program focuses on one or two location-specific themes. And as with the Green Mountains program, students will be joined by Columbia Climate School experts for a portion of the trip, and these experts will be leading on delivering the program theme content. All trips have a final project that students also take back to their communities. They look a little different depending on the theme, and these projects really utilize and apply the knowledge gained and the skills acquired throughout their time in the program. So this summer, we're offering 3 Columbia Climate Corps opportunities. One is to Alaska. This focuses on the theme of climate communications and exploration, running from July 17th to July 28th. The Chile and Peru program is focusing on climate impacts and risk, running from July 22nd through August 11th. And Iceland is focusing on carbon capture technologies, running from July 20th through August 1st. The associated fees are listed here on the slide. They're slightly different depending on the travel and accommodation of each of these trips, but this fee, as with the Green Mountains, is all-inclusive. So it covers the accommodations, the meals, the program activities, field excursions, and transportation throughout the program. This is our second year in offering the Iceland trip, and we're really excited to be able to offer it again. And the Alaska and the Chile Peru program are new this year, and we're also really excited to have these available to you all. So first, we're going to talk about the Alaska program. So this, as I mentioned, focuses on the theme of climate communications and exploration. Climate change is disproportionately impacting the Arctic as it's experiencing the most extreme warming. So this melts sea ice, glaciers, permafrost, and it drastically shifts the indigenous community's traditional way of life, and it threatens food security and livelihoods of residents in the area. So during this program, students are going to learn directly from our Columbia Climate School experts about how individuals and communities come to understand and take action on climate change through communication and collaboration. Some key things that students will be able to do as part of the program: they're going to explore Peterson Bay Field Station on the Kenai Peninsula. During their trip to the field station, they're going to learn about the preservation and sustainability initiative that they lead through research and stewardship and education. They're also going to have a chance to learn directly from Alaska Native Heritage Center, to learn from Native storytellers and cultural representatives about their experience with climate change in their area and how it's impacting their way of life. Students will also be able to visit one of Alaska's 100,000 receding glaciers, and you'll be able to learn about the glacier directly from one of the local guides. And finally, you'll get to hike on Denali National Park and really experience America's tallest mountain, Mount Denali, among a variety of other activities. Those are just some of the highlights. As I mentioned, this program runs from July 17th to July 29th for 12 days. Lisa Dale is the Columbia Climate School expert for this trip. Lisa co-directs and teaches at Columbia University's Climate School in the undergraduate program on sustainable development, and she focuses on the interdisciplinary communities and environment thematic area. Lisa is an expert in communicating with communities and gaining their trust to collaborate with them and instill climate mitigation and adaptation strategies through the local utilization of multi-generational knowledge. The other Climate Corps program is the Chile and Peru program. This focuses on the theme of climate impacts and risk. Chile and Peru play an important role in driving the renewable energy transition due to the abundance of minerals in the region that are essential for batteries. However, the mining of these materials, it can have a devastating impact on the community if it's done irresponsibly, and it can also drive climate injustice in the region. So this is a topic that we will be focusing on this trip. And in addition, Chile and Peru are also experiencing extreme climate challenges, including water insecurity due to diminishing resources and melting glaciers. So during this program, students will learn from to Columbia Climate School experts about how climate change is affecting disasters and extreme events and how different solutions can be employed to mitigate and adapt to these impacts. Some key fun things about this program, students will be able to take a day trip to visit the Hydrographic and Oceanographic Service of the Navy to learn about how disaster risk reduction strategies are used in this region, the tsunami risk of this region, and the different warning systems that they have in place. They'll also be able to explore a Chilean desert to examine the climate impacts and the role of human rights and gender equality in the mining sector. They will hike a section of Machu Picchu, and they'll be able to walk alongside ancient water management systems in the Peruvian Andes and interview local community members about their experience with the climate impacts of their area. This trip runs for 21 days, so longer than the Alaska program I previously mentioned, from July 22nd to August 11th. And we are joined today by Antonia, who is going to introduce herself and her work. Thanks, Antonia.
Thank you, Laurel. So hello, everyone. My name is Antonia Samur, and I'm a staff associate at the National Center for Disaster Preparedness at the Climate School. I've been at the center for about 5 years, since I was a graduate student at the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia, where I was studying international climate policy. I have a background in economics and international development, and my professional background is in research and directly working with youth, vulnerable communities, and governments in a range of different topics related to the impacts of climate change on vulnerable population, adaptation, and disaster preparedness. I am originally from Santiago, and I currently am based between Santiago and San Juan, Puerto Rico, where I lead some of our center's work related to disaster preparedness and vulnerable populations. And I'm really excited to be here and to host the Chile side of this Climate Corps program. And I think this is a really unique opportunity because Chile, as Laurel said, is facing an increasing amount of climate risk, which, along with some really interesting social and political challenges around natural resource management, is placing Chile at a really interesting position between the mining industry, the communities affected by climate change, and kind of forcing us to quickly think about adaptation to water scarcity for communities and for the mining industry itself. And so during the program, I will be teaching about climate risk and impacts and the social and political dimensions of the impacts of climate change in population, and lastly about disaster preparedness and response. And I think it will be very interesting to think about how these local climate impacts, challenges, and opportunities in Chile and Peru are interacting with the global issues, and will invite everyone to think creatively about potential solutions. So thanks for being here, everyone, and I look forward to hosting potentially the program in Chile and to hearing your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Antonia. Nicholas, who is not able to join us today, will be the other climate school expert that will be staying for a portion of this trip. So Nicholas is a development economist with experience in academia, the public and private sectors. His work really aims to promote responsible mining practices in the Andean region. He works with government, civil society, academia, and the private sector to implement socio-environmental standards along the mineral supply chains. He also increases community participation in decision-making and supports the supports efficient allocation of revenues from the sector in mining regions. So these will be your experts for the Chile and Peru program. And our last Climate Corps trip will be running to Iceland, focusing on carbon capture technology. So Iceland is both experiencing extreme climate impacts due to the warming in the Arctic that I previously mentioned, and it's also developing cutting edge innovation solutions to climate change. So in Iceland, they are sequestering carbon through the injection of CO2 into basalt rocks to form solid carbonate minerals, which is removing atmospheric CO2 and locking it underground in rock reservoirs, which will mitigate climate change. So during this program, students will learn directly from 2 Columbia Climate School experts about the specifics of this carbon capture technology and what the future landscape for this sequestration looks like. This program runs from July 20th to August 1st. So as I mentioned, this program is, this is going to be the second time that we've run this program. Last year, it was incredible. These are a couple photos shot from last summer. Some really key highlights of the program. Students get to go behind the scenes at a geothermal power plant to witness firsthand how Iceland is leading in carbon capture projects through international partnerships. And there's an image right here on the top right of that. Students also learned directly from geoengineers, volcanologists, glaciologists, and foresters who are working collaboratively to generate solutions to address atmospheric climate CO2 challenges. And of course, there's lots of time for exploration and fun. Students were able to scout for puffins and whales and seals as they kayak through some of the most beautiful pristine waters around Iceland, as well as got to visit some sites and walk along a glacier and visit a thermal pool. So lots to explore in Iceland as well. These are our 2 experts for the Iceland program. We have Dave Goldberg and Claire Nelson. So Dave, he is a Lamont research professor at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory of the Columbia Climate School, and he's also the deputy director of Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. His interests really focus on the integration of different technologies and cross-disciplinary approaches to develop achievable climate solutions. He's acted as the principal investigator, the PI, on many collaborative research projects, including recent multinational carbon management studies, and has been directly involved with various scientific drilling programs. So he has a lot of experience in the carbon capture space. Claire Nelson is a postdoctoral research scientist at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory working with Dave. Her research focuses on carbon storage in basalt, which speeds up that natural basalt weathering process to turn CO2 into its solid carbonate form. So these geoengineering strategies have the potential to play an important role in mitigating the effects of climate change by permanently removing it from the atmosphere and storing it underground. So Claire's research is directly involved in the theme of this trip, and she will have a lot of knowledge to share as well on this. All right, so that's a little bit of background about all of our offerings this summer. I hope it got you as excited as it got all of us here on the call. I'm going to now pass it over to Evan again, who's going to share more about the program eligibility, applications, and any next steps you need to take.
Thank you, Laurel. Good afternoon, everyone. So students in grades 9 through 12 are eligible for our programs, and we do consider motivated rising 9th graders. So students who are currently in 8th grade and will be completing 8th grade at the end of this school year would be considered on a case-by-case basis. It is a selective admissions process. It's not meant to be a very rigorous application process, and it is a rolling application process. So we do encourage you to get your application in early to secure a spot. In order to hold space on the program, a family would put down a $700 deposit, which is composed of a $200 application fee, which is non-refundable, and the other $500 of that $700, which goes toward the program fee, the remaining balance of which is due on March 15th. If a family or student decides to withdraw from the program up until March the 15th, you would be refunded that $500 deposit. Once a family holds space on the program to complete the application process, you'll be invited to complete an applicant statement, which is basically the student indicating why they want to be a part of the program, how they feel they'll benefit from it, and 2 educator references, which typically come from classroom teachers. It's a pretty simple form for teachers to fill out, so it's not a formal recommendation letter, but an automated process that you input the names and emails of the 2 teachers you would like to recommend you, and the system will automatically email them with the recommendation form. And aside from that, it's just an agreement form that both student and primary parent or guardian sign, agreeing to the terms of the program, and that will hold your space on the trip. We do encourage you to reach out to Putney Student Travel with any questions about the application process. We are here ready to answer any questions and help you if you're running into any issues. I think moving along to the next slide, I did want to highlight that scholarship opportunities do exist for these programs, and both full and partial scholarships are available for high school students who reside in the US and meet the financial eligibility guidelines. The summary of it, which you can learn more about on the website, is to qualify for a full scholarship. Families' household income must be less than $50,000 annually for a family of 4 or less, and less than $75,000 for a family of more than 4. And for a partial scholarship, the eligibility is for up to $75,000 combined household income for a family of 4 or less, and up to $100,000 for a family of more than 4. The application process for the scholarship is a separate process than the one on our main website. So again, I just encourage you to go onto the website and read the instructions for the scholarship application if you're interested in applying. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us by telephone or by email to scholarships@goputney.com. The deadline for the scholarship application is March 15th, 2023. And once more, we do encourage you to apply sooner than later to be sure that all required forms for the scholarship are turned in on time. I think at this point, we were going to pass it over to my colleague Julian to answer a couple of questions that have come up in the chat. And again, if you have any questions in your mind, don't hesitate to put them in the chat now or to follow up with us at a later date. Thank you very much.
That was great.
Thanks, Evan. Hi, everybody. So I'm seeing a question here. Do past participants keep in touch after the program ends? And is there a network or bond that's built between them that carries into the future? And I think the answer to that is definitely a yes. Many of the students do keep in touch after the program ends, and especially the ones that live in the same region. They have opportunities to go to similar events or work on projects together in different ways, and we definitely encourage that and love to. That's a big part of why we bring the students that come, especially on the Green Mountains program, come from all over the country as well as from some other countries. So it's really a fantastic opportunity for them to get to know each other and build bonds and meet people they wouldn't meet in their ordinary lives. So good question.
I also wanted to just pop in on this, as I have typically been an instructor for the Green Mountains program in years past. I've had the opportunity to build relationships with the students that join these programs, and they have kept in touch with at least myself as an instructor, and it's been wonderful to hear the progress that they've made on their action plans, as well as just the progress they're making in their career choices or which college they want to go to. So it's definitely encouraged that they keep in touch. I've actually also been in contact with some students that have joined me for one of our Columbia Climate School Climate Live K-12 sessions, which is an opportunity for an expert to share about any particular field of study. So I had a student from the Green Mountains program join me to share about student activism in the climate movement, and a couple other students from the Green Mountains program wrote some testimonies that were a part of a blog post that was done for the State of the Planet about the Green Mountains experience. So I can also share that in the chat if anyone's interested, but they really like to stay involved and build this network, which is really wonderful. If there are any other questions, I definitely encourage them now, but I also see we've had a handful of questions that have been answered that I might just share aloud for everyone in case this is a similar question that you may have as well. So someone had asked, do the locations of the travel programs change every year? They can change a bit from year to year, but the programs that run and are very popular, I tend to offer a year after year. So we have run Green Mountains. This will be our third time running it. Iceland, this is our second time. And we're really excited to offer Alaska and the Chile Peru program for the first time this summer. The campus-based program, just to remind everyone, is the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains, and it is hosted on the campus of Vermont State University, which was formerly Castleton University. So that is the campus-based program. Students will really have this full campus experience of living in dorms, going to dining halls. So it'll be a bit of a college experience taste for them. And the climate core programs are the traveling programs. So the accommodations vary depending on the trip, but it is not based on a university campus. In terms of what we're looking for in our applicants, there are no prerequisites to join any of our programs, but an interest in climate change solutions and advocacy are definitely essential, as that is the real focus of all of our programs, all of our summer programs. If a student is really interested in a holistic understanding of climate and solutions, I think the Green Mountains program is a really great opportunity for them, as they get to hear from 6 experts in a variety of different sectors. However, if you're a student that knows that you're really interested in one particular theme or topic of climate, and those topics could be touched on in these travel programs where you intentionally travel to these like place-based locations to learn, I would recommend the Climate Core program. So it depends on what the student is most interested in, and our team, if you have any questions, can help you discuss these different options and what might be a good fit as well. Great question about the adult to student ratio here for our programs and the amount of students that are accepted into each of these programs. So the Green Mountains program, we can accept up to 100 students. And as I mentioned, we have 6 Columbia Climate School experts joining over the 2-week course of that program that are joining to teach about their field of expertise, as well as Putney student travel instructors that are joining for that program. For the travel program, it varies based on the trip. The Iceland trip takes 16 students. We have 2 Putney student travel instructors, and the 2 Columbia Climate School experts join for a portion of that trip. Chile, Peru, and Alaska, they both take 18 students with the same adult ratio. 2 Putney student travel instructors. Chile, Peru has 2 experts. Alaska has 1 Columbia Climate School expert. Yes, in terms of the availability for scholarships, we don't have a set number. However, the scholarships are competitive, and we also encourage students who are interested and eligible to apply sooner than later. So we have the ability to reach out to them and to review all the scholarships that may be eligible for this either full or partial scholarship opportunity. Okay. If there are no more questions, I just also wanted to share that these programs are truly unique and one of a kind, particularly for a couple of reasons. Our pre-college programs are really led by Columbia Climate School experts that are either staff members, researchers, faculty of the Columbia Climate School. They're not adjuncts that are hired for the program. And so this is really important because it means that the students are going to be engaged with experts that are right in the middle of the cutting edge research of their field, and experts that are conducting this work year round. This is a unique feature that can set us apart from other summer programs. And it really provides students to have these real-time conversations, the ability to network with the leaders in these different climate fields and climate spaces. So it's quite a special opportunity for them. In addition, we really value the immersive field component of each of these programs. Learning can happen in a lot of different places, but we think that having the ability to learn in the field, on the ground, through either site visits or cultural outings really provides a holistic perspective and understanding of the topic. This type of learning is particularly powerful because there's no pressure of testing or grading. It is learning and learning from each other for the sake of gaining knowledge and hopefully driving action in your communities going forward to address climate change. And I'm so glad to hear that this session was helpful. So that about wraps it up. So if there are no other questions, I just want to thank you all again for joining us for the past hour to learn about these summer pre-college programs. If you do have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We have our contact information located right here on this slide. You can also learn more about going to our websites directly. And we hope to hear from you soon. Bye, everyone.